say, let's meet at 7 p.m. at Harry's in Boat Key, and we'll talk then, So so you get all that sort of work, not necessarily, but you need to be prepared, I think, just to kind of, be prepared to slowly step outside and, and have those conversations with your boss or whatever, in a more social kind of environment. Right. The elevator pitch. I mean, this is more for you, for those of you who've never interviewed before or are going to prepare for interviews. I think this is just a good way in terms of preparing your CV, or if you're interviewing, you need to know who you are, what do you offer. Okay. So for example, right? I'm Steve McGowan. I work for Robert Half. I sell staffing solutions to the financial service industry in Singapore. What have I done? I built Singapore 4 years ago, and I run a $3 million business. I want to take the next step and build a bigger business, or get another division, right? So that's a bit of a pitch, okay? Just to give you an idea. So what you want to do is, what do you have? What are your specific value adds? What do you do? What do you offer? And you can create different versions depending on who you interview with. I think that's what we're trying to bring about there. And you don't want to wing it. When you go for an interview, I encourage you to prepare for what you're going to say. You don't want to go there and just think, well, whatever. If for example, if I'm asking you a question, tell me about your last project, and you go, I'll just say that. My advice would be, think about your interview, think about what questions they're going to ask you, because it's all related to your experience, right? So you want to make sure that you are as prepared as possible. The amount of people I have worked with in my career who've lost jobs, not because they don't know what they do, or not because they aren't good at what they do, it's because they haven't been able to effectively communicate in an interview what they do. And I think it's simple. So you've got somebody who's probably not going to be as good as you, not going to be as highly qualified as you, but who can talk better than you. And that person might get that job, you know what I mean? Because he was better prepared, and he just had a certain way of delivering what he did than the other person. So the way to counter that is to try and prepare as best as you can. This is what I do, okay, and modify that.
Can I just ask you a question on
Sure.
this issue of sort of making it believable and authentic? I mean, we've all had experiences where people are slick, they speak, they put something on, it's like, I don't believe this. How does one sort of do that and yet sort of seem credible without seeming arrogant?
Sure.
Again, seeming appropriate without being bragging.
Yeah.
How do you sort of know where that right feel is for that guy?
You mean if I'm hiring someone?
Well, the person answering, the person giving the response.
Right.
Who you are, what you offer, what you need. You can be over the top. You can.
Sure.
You can open your mouth and shoot yourself. You could.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I think I sort of follow a rule of 3 things. I think you've got to be ethical in what you answer. I think you've got to be honest in terms of what you've done. And I think you need to be transparent. I think if you lie, you'll get caught. If you say something on your CV, and people do this all the time. SAS or whatever. Like looking for an SAS guy, for example. Other than SAS, he's not an SAS. He went for an SAS training. So you go back now and you CV recruitment experience. Why? I went to a course. Steve was speaking. I'm recruitment now. Recruitment on the CV. So that's what So you don't want to do that. You want to be honest about what you do. And when I say you don't want to be slick, I'm not trying to say you brag or this is what I do. I'm talking more about you want to be. Don't talk in circles. Okay, it's a big no-no. Don't talk in circles. Be specific. Talk about what you know, and you won't believe the amount of clients who like. If you say no, I'm sorry, I've never done that. I don't know. I don't know that.
You think that's okay?
Absolutely, because otherwise, what's the other choice? You're gonna lie, right? So.
I think it depends on the nature of the job. Some jobs are more technical in nature. If you go there and present yourself as overly slick, the manager might be a different kind of mindset and think that this is a sales guy, right?
True.
He's not the
Exactly.
typical guy.
Or he's going to get together, he's going to be better than him,
He
you know.
really seems to be like,
And
what's the
what
job
hire
fit?
because exactly,
Yeah.
right? So he's going to feel like, oh, geez, I don't want to hire this guy. He's, you know, he's
Yeah.
going to take my job. You know, look at him. He's, you know, so yeah, it happens, right? So I mean, if it's a technical interview, it tends to be quite straightforward because you've got a test.
Yeah.
Okay, can you develop in Java? Yes, I can. Okay, show me. All right, geez, no, you can't. Oh, yes, you can. You know, so that's a bit easier. I think when it comes down to more softer skills, about more project work, then people can swing things, and that's when you get caught, right? Because and that's what I mean by just being honest. Because at the end of the day, you'll have somebody who'll interview you. The second interview might be the third interview where this guy's manager, and he will see right through you and say, I've interviewed 1,000 people in my 20 years of experience. Tell me about this, and he'll ask you a question, and you'll be like, and he'll catch you. So that's what I mean. So it's more about just being honest and specific, as opposed to talking in circles about stuff.
Those are the two keys. Really be honest. Really be specific and clear.
Yeah, and just so communicate effectively, right? Because they're also thinking about, well, how am I going to put this young person into a boardroom in front of my stakeholders because we're trying to drive technology risk agenda to the MAS. No, I can't do that because he just talks nonsense. He just talks and talks and talks. Whereas the MAS guy is going to look at you and say, I need this done by the 31st of August 2014, or where is your bank at the moment to affect that, And if you lie to an MAS guy, well, I don't know, you're probably going to jail. But you know what I mean? So I think that's more, so just, I'll try and help you along this. I mean, this is just a little bit, so.
Can you explain there's one point where you say what you need, what does it mean? What do you mean by that?
So as you know, this is what I'm looking for. So you're interviewing, and you say, well, this is what I have, this is what I do, this is who I am, and this is what I'm looking for in terms of my job. So this is what your job is, and this is what I would expect out of this job. Because you don't want to be like, I'll do anything. I mean, you just want to have a bit more of, where you're giving them something, right?
Yeah.
Your time, your expertise, your 4 years of school. So that's kind of more what I mean by that. It's like, what do I need out of this job? This is what I'm looking for. And so instead of trying to put a square peg in a round hole, you want to try.
I think this point has to be also be mindful not to overdo it when you present yourself as before you offer, you want more things from the organization.
No, I mean, I'm not saying you should go and start talking the salary.
No, I mean
but yeah, I mean, you don't want to ask too many benefits. It's more about
so it's more specific to your career aspirations in terms of what you want to achieve with
exactly.
the organization.
I mean, this is the in 5 years' time, I'd like to be doing this.
It's not a job title thing, it's not a salary thing, but
aspirations and
Exactly. This is what I'd like to be doing in 5 years. I either want to go down the technical route, I want to go down the management route, or I want to be an expert. So, any other questions? Is that okay? Yeah. Okay. So this is kind of what you kind of want to. This is what I just did when I did my little pitch, I suppose. So your name, what do you currently do? What's your most recent position? What are your strengths? What are the 3 things? I ask every candidate that I meet. What are the 3 things that will help you get across to a prospective employer? What are the 3 things that you do, right? And you guys have seen IT CVs, right? I mean, they're the longest CVs. Trust me. Everyone has done everything. Microsoft, Cisco, Java, C. I mean, it's like, come on. What do you really do? I interviewed a Russian guy the other day, and he done everything, and he didn't back down. He was like, I've done C++, I've done Java, I've done .NET, I've done everything. I'm an expert, which is good. And I'm sure you must be an expert. I'm not technical, but when you are delivering that to a client who's looking for a .NET person, he doesn't want to know about your C++ skills or your Java skills. All he wants to know about is, tell me the project that you developed in .NET and what did you do. That's all he wants to know. Right? He doesn't care about your C++ or Java. He doesn't want to know. But that's what I mean by specifics. You want to tailor your answer to the question. So key strengths or accomplishments are always good because you get examples. So specific examples are good, right? Use the word I instead of we. That's a tip. A lot of people say we did that, and I know Tim Asik, one of my big clients. Great relationship with Tim Asik. And whenever you get to a senior level interview, and if you say we, they will shoot you down because they're like, I'm not interested in we. what did you do? What were you doing as part of that project? What were you doing as part of that team? I don't want to know about what we did. You know, what were you doing? So use I if you can. Well, as you should, because you were part of the team. For a lot of you, the reason for leaving the last position wouldn't be graduation. We graduated. That's why we left. If you didn't leave graduation, something's wrong.
Let me ask you that, because I've worked and both hired and fired a bunch of people, you know, here in Singapore, and you know, I've had people who've worked with us for a while and then wanted to move on to something. And I don't know the number, 8 out of 10, but a lot of the people I interview, it's so clear they're not telling you the real reason why they left their last position.
I'll tell you why that is, because most of them left the last position because they want more money. So it's kind of hard for them to be honest and tell you like, well, we left because we wanted more money.
Well, no, it's not.
Well, I know it's, well, to me and maybe some of you here, it might not be hard, but for some people it is, right? And some people look at that wrong and say, well.
So on the thing, when you're doing your elevator pitch, and the reason for leaving your last position, there's the cosmetic, politically correct answer, there's like the polite version of the real answer, there's the just really sort of say it unfiltered version of the real answer.
And then there's the truth.
Yeah. So how do you advise on that one? You know, everyone's going to figure out how to do the first 3 bullet points. Most people, you know, dealing with that one is sort of a different argument.
It is, right? I mean, for a lot of people, it's pretty straightforward, right? I'm leaving because I've reached the level I'm at, and I can't do anything in my current role. For some people, it's restructure. They restructured my role, so I'm looking for a role. And for some people, for a lot of people, it's money. I want to leave because I want to earn more money. And I think it's about time someone gave me more money. And I think that is, as long as you put that in with some other true reasons. I mean, if that's the only push factor for you, then
they know you'll leave them.
Well, exactly, right? So their fear is that you'll do the same thing.
This is a trick question. So I want someone who don't want to bitch about his former company. You know, I want somebody who's writing some political thing that is quite nice and not something to bitch about. Oh, I didn't like that. The management sucks, etc. Right?
I would not be negative in an interview about my last employer.
Yeah. Then I mean, this reason usually people write some very nice things to say that, you know, I'm looking for better challenges.
Yeah, so looking for better challenges, well, which is kind of vague, but you know, if you can be more specific, that's good.
Yeah.
Things like, I'm an AVP and I really want to get that next VP title, and Barclays aren't doing that at the moment because they've just shed 90,000 jobs. Right, so there you go. So that's a good example. It's market data. You're not lying, right? It's no. My jobs are being offshored, so you know I want to look at something else. That's stability is a big one, right? People use stable all the time. You know, I want to be more stable. You know, my colleagues might lose their, don't want to lose my job. You know, when it comes down to money, I would always add in and say, well, and I think I'm underpaid for what I do. You know, but make sure you know you're underpaid before you say that. Because if you're not underpaid, well, then he's not going to hire you, right? He's like, you're not underpaid. You know, you get paid more than me. You know, so you want to be careful about that. So I would never be negative about my last employer, no matter how bad the relationship was. I would never be negative about my last employer because this is a small industry. We work in a very small industry. The amount of people who know people, you'll be surprised. Once you get out there, you'll know what I'm talking about. You know, the technology risk industry is very small. People meet at gatherings like this, and they know people. You say one name, and you didn't call him out. He's probably his best friend. Oh, guess what, John? Oh, geez, I met this guy today. You know, he wanted to interview me. He said you were a real bitch, you know. You know, he's not gonna hire you, is he? He's like, well, really? Oh, that guy's terrible. Don't hire him. You know, he's rubbish. You know, and you might be good, but you know, because you don't want to burn your bridges. You know, some people, and the best people in this industry are the ones who leave their jobs but maintain a good relationship with their ex-bosses. And if you can do that, you know, that's pretty good. Any other questions on this one before I move on? No? Okay. Okay, so the personal brand online, and specifically I want to talk about LinkedIn. I think Facebook and Twitter are more for posting what you're eating or whatever, you know. LinkedIn is important. I think LinkedIn is from my perspective and my industry, is very important. So how many of you have LinkedIn profile? Oh, that's good. And is it up to date, so it matches your CV and all that? Okay, that's really helpful. And I'll tell you why it's helpful. Because big companies today spend a lot of money on LinkedIn. So it's not just recruitment agencies or staffing agencies, it's big companies like Standard Chartered of the world or the BHP Billions of the world. They have corporate accounts and they hire a lot of people to look for employees, right? And if they're looking for someone and you might be the perfect match, but your LinkedIn profile isn't up to date, then it's sorry, it doesn't make any sense. So I would advise you to please have it like a resume, because I would look at LinkedIn. I look at LinkedIn every single day because I'm looking for people to connect with. The other thing how many of you have sort of 300 connections or more? Right. Okay. So I would advise you to connect with more people specific to your industry, because that always helps you in terms of whether it be forums or ideas or jobs, right? So someone shares something, you will get it because your connection posted it. I mean, if you've got less than 100 connections, then.
Can I ask you something about that? Now, I just have my own quirky rules, but if someone out of the blue who I have never personally met and they send me the generic, I want to connect with you, I'll often not accept it. Now,
fair enough.
There are a few cases where there's something sufficiently interesting about the person's background and just
I think good looking.
well, you're right. And in some way strategic, where I'll follow up. But if I just sort of get these random things, I won't accept them.
No, I mean, and I would either. So if I'm asking, for example, if I'm looking to find someone, say I'm looking to find a senior, risk person, right? And I don't know this person, and I want to connect with them because I've seen their profile on LinkedIn, and I think that they'll be great for the role. So what I do is I go in with a specific reason why I want to connect with them.
Well, that's different.
Yes.
Versus the generic LinkedIn thing.
So that's
Yeah.
up to you, really, right?
Right.
I mean, I think so. I think it's a personal thing. So a lot of people don't accept those because I don't know you, but some people do because it's more of a professional site, and they just want to have that. I think it's more like don't connect with people who have nothing to do with what you do. I mean, like you're a technology guy, and then you've got contacts who are like chefs. That doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? Unless they're your friend or whatever. So that's what I mean. So try and keep it sort of specific enough to your industry where you can use that wisely. So I think that's important. Because you can read industry forums on LinkedIn, and that's the same with any sort of industry forum. I don't know how many of you sort of follow blogs or comments or stuff like that, but I think that's interesting. I think some people spend too much time on that kind of stuff because you can see them on LinkedIn. They're just like back and forth, writing stuff to each other. But I think having a good LinkedIn account is very important. I can't stress enough. It'll help your career. It'll help your career. Facebook and Twitter. I've got mixed feelings about Facebook and Twitter. So me personally, I have a LinkedIn account. I keep it very accurate and up to date. My Facebook account is purely personal. So if you Google me or whatever, you will not be able to find. I mean, you find me, but you won't be able, it stops at my name. So I've got family, my kids on there, and that I keep that. Twitter, we certainly use Twitter, and of course, if you've got a company Facebook account, then that's different, which we do, and we certainly do that. But in terms of personal Facebook accounts, I would encourage you to maybe privatize that a little bit. Keep that private because that's your social, personal media, and then LinkedIn is a lot more professional, and you want to keep the two separate because and then Twitter, of course, I mean, how many of you tweet? Okay, that's good. It's a clear 0. But yeah, I mean, but Twitter is used more, I would say. I don't know, Calvin. So Calvin's, by the way, our PR and marketing manager for Asia, so Calvin knows a lot about these things. So in terms of tweeting, is Twitter more like used by companies in terms of like people?
I think nowadays the trend for Twitter is more to engage with bloggers or the media.
Right.
And even
right.
that's the medium
But
that
it's
the media
social
use.
media.
Social media, exactly. But I think the point to note about social networking sites is as much as LinkedIn is important, it's also important to pay attention to Facebook, like what's on your personal Facebook pages, because sometimes when a company searches for your name, for example, both these might just appear, and if they happen to kind of compare between the two of them, just make sure that things are consistent and nothing objectionable or something that's too
Yeah, I think we want to
inappropriate.
limit any sort of social damage, really. I mean, we live in a digital world where everyone can Google anyone, and I think you want to make sure that there's nothing damaging to your brand on your media, which is why you want to keep things up to date. And as far as Facebook goes, I mean, my sort of thing on Facebook is it's private. I don't have to share it with anyone unless I want to. So. Sure, yeah. Sorry.
I made an application, job application, and I found that, so what happens that they asked me to provide my Facebook account, my LinkedIn account.
Really?
So, yeah. So
Was it Facebook?
No, it wasn't Facebook. So the interesting thing is, right, so I'm wondering, there's the personal, is it important for, as a candidate, do you think it's a bonus or something that will enhance the application if they put in the Facebook account and profile for to show them?
No.
I think it's more due diligence check.
I think so. They want to check up on you, and I don't believe that legally.
They should be
Doesn't
doing your
sound
Facebook.
right.
Yeah, it doesn't sound right.
It doesn't
Yeah, I don't
sound
believe
right.
legally they can ask you to do that. I mean, if you
It's
volunteer to do that, that's
optional.
fine. But I don't think you have to do that.
Can't
If you don't
they
want to do it, you don't have to do that.
Your LinkedIn profile, they can see some part of it anyway, right? What will they need your account for?
They don't, it's an optional field, but
It wasn't optional, so it was
It's not.
mandatory.
no, it's an optional
It is
field,
optional, okay.
both LinkedIn and Facebook. So the candidate will